Hey, I made a new font called Fuzzbox in a textury, gritty, analogy, printmakey brush set called Delightfully Distressing. Oh, and I'm Chris Piascik. I am a illustrator and letterer. I've done work for clients like Cartoon Network, Nike, Google, Nickelodeon, and countless others. I feel like I just need to qualify why I'm telling you about this stuff that I made and why maybe you might want to use it. I don't know. This video is brought to you by Envato, the ultimate creative subscription. Every type of asset for any type of project, full stack of AI tools, from music gen to video, from image gen to fonts, and everything in between, whatever is in between those things. Follow the link in the description and start creating now, as soon as you finish this. Fuzzbox is a hand-drawn display typeface with psychedelic retro vibes, and it comes in 3 styles: Fuzzbox, Fuzzbox Inline, and Fuzzbox Knockout. It also has a ton of ligatures and some built-in bonus characters. This font was inspired by the block lettering that you would see on 60s and 70s rock posters. Each letter or character has a matching silhouette on the outside so that they all fit together in a perfect little grid shape, and it's very satisfying, I have to say. There's over 40 brushes in my Delightfully Distressing brush pack in several categories, including texture, obviously, liners, halftones, and then patterns and effects. I built these brushes starting with analog techniques using ink and paint and different textures that I scanned in and messed up and played around with and had a lot of fun with. I wanted these brushes to feel like analog materials and have that effect, so starting with actual physical materials helped me achieve the best possible results. At least I think so. You can let me know. Get out of here. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe it would be helpful to mention that you can follow the link in the description to download these assets, add your license, and then use them however you need to. But here, you finish it up. These brushes will work in Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Fresco and any other app that uses Photoshop brushes. If you're on a Mac, installing the brush set and the font couldn't be any easier. You literally just double click on them and then they'll auto install. If you're on a Windows machine, I'm sure if you're getting brushes and fonts, you know how to install them. You probably need an app or something, I don't know. Importing the font on the iPad and like Adobe Fresco or Procreate, it's pretty straightforward. You just go into the type tool, and both of them have options to add more fonts, and then you can just choose the font wherever you have it saved. To install the brushes in Adobe Fresco, you just go to your brush menu. Down at the bottom, you'll see add more brushes. Tap on that, and then you just locate the brushes wherever you have them saved. All right, let me walk through my process for how I use this stuff, and maybe it'll give you some ideas for how you can incorporate it into your own workflow. For this first piece, I wanted to play around with a very symmetrical design. I decided to start this off in Illustrator because it was the easiest way for me to kind of just plan out this grid in an efficient way. I started just playing around with the shapes tools, breaking up the space into an overall grid. I was thinking that the don't feed type could be on the top, maybe curved, and then demon could be big at the bottom. I thought the Fuzzbox typeface would be perfect for this. I decided to keep the don't feed type pretty simple, and I wanted to sort of elongate some of the letters to match that arc shape. And then I thought I could incorporate some of the other characters in the font, like there's like a little burst thing and then like a little skull. I thought those could be in like little boxes on the sides with that big demon head illustration that I was going to do in the center. To quickly find those extra characters that I wanted to use, I just opened up the glyph menu, which shows all the different characters within the typeface, and found that little burst, and then I grabbed the skull for the other side. I wanted to put some other graphic element into the composition, and I thought some additional type would be cool, so I decided to put good vibes above the skull and the burst to sort of play with the idea of like don't feed the demon, in terms of like the stuff that you pay attention to or put all your energy into is the stuff that's going to thrive. So if you focus on good vibes, then good vibes are going to thrive, right? Right? I think that's what that means. Once I was satisfied with this overall grid from Illustrator, I just saved it as a PNG and then placed that into my Fresco document on my iPad so I could draw on top of it and just kind of play it around. Because I'm going with the symmetrical vibe, I used the symmetry tool to sketch out this demon face, trying to sort of reference loosely that classic Japanese tattoo style of like the demons, but with my own spin. I noodled around with the sketch for a little bit and then used the rest of it to pull together this tightened up illustration, and then went ahead and added in color. Because I wanted to use the texture brushes here to make things easier, I kept my colors on individual layers so that I could go in and kind of mess them up or color them in with the texture one at a time and not have it just apply to the whole thing, so I'd have a little bit more control. For example, I knew I wanted to add some shading with the halftone brushes on specific colors. So because I had the orange on its own layer to start here, I made a new layer and then made it a clipping mask so that I could quickly color on top of it and have it only appear on top of that orange. Then I did the same thing for the pink, and then with the red and the yellow too. I switched back and forth between a couple of the different halftone brushes to just keep it a little bit different and add different tones. For example, the halftone that I'm using on the eyes is a much smaller halftone than the other one, so it adds a nice visual contrast with that texture. The halftones are a fun way to stick with a very minimal color palette, but add some tone to the image without introducing a whole new color for it. So after the halftones, I wanted to just generally distress it and give it more of a printmaky look and feel. So I used some of the texture brushes and some of the lighter grain things to just kind of break down the flat coverage of the different colors. This is sort of just like a process where I'm just trying it out, seeing how much I want to distress it, and just not sort of figuring out as I go. Then to finish it off, I use some of that crumpled detail texture thing that just adds that sort of like bigger distress mark that almost looks like a cracked, worn out shirt or something like that, like a vintage t-shirt. I don't know, as a cool look. Happy with how this turned out. Let's look at something else. For this next one, I was working in Adobe Photoshop, but the process is pretty much the same. I wanted to obviously emulate the printmaky look here, sort of like a screen print situation. The pink block here is almost a solid fill, so I really wanted it to have that like dried ink print look. So what I did was I put a white layer above it and then clipped it and then flattened it so that it was white. And then on that new layer clipped to the white layer, I used the pink and the cover up brush to just block in that pink color and get the texture to a place I wanted it to be. I thought it would be fun to add a little bit of texture into the 3D part of that infast lettering using the halftones. So I just did a new layer above the blue, the light blue, and clipping masked it, and then with the dark blue on the layer above it, just sort of filled in that area. After that, I just went through some of the different color layers and kind of distressed them a little bit by using the brush as an eraser. In Photoshop, you can just hold that little tilde key. Is that what it is? The little squiggly line in the top left. You can hold that down and that'll just use any brush as an eraser. And I did that to get the texture from the brush, but to chop it out of the color that I was working on. And then I thought it was a little bit weird that the window area was just like perfectly see-through, so I wanted to add a little bit of tone to that. So I just went on the line work layer and made a selection of inside the windows, and then just used I think it's the sander, to just kind of put in some light texture of that blue to just sort of block those windows out a little bit. And then at the end, just went a little crazy with some of the bigger textures, and I think this has a pretty cool look. I had a lot of fun making these brushes. Hey, it's me, Smarter Chris, back again to let you know that you can follow the link in the description to download these assets, add your license, and have some fun. I'll let him finish. I hope you enjoy them too. If you make some fun stuff with this, let me know. I'd love to see it. You can tag me on wherever. I'm just at Chris Piascik. That's me. Hey, Chris. Did you know I have a YouTube channel? You could come check that out too. Thanks, Envato. Thank you. Good talk. You're my best friend. Okay, bye.
Fuzzbox.